Anthony Edwards shown a lot of improvement on the defensive end over the past couple of seasons. While it's not perfect, I'm going to break down why he has so much potential on this end of the floor. So without further ado, let's get into it. His go-to strategy on defense is to pickpocket his opponents, and while this is a risky way to play defense, he was only 5th on his team in personal fouls per game, so clearly he takes pretty good gambles on the ball more times than not. On this possession versus Banchero, he perfectly anticipates him switching hands and comes away with a steal in the process. This just shows he can be smart with his own ball pressure. Here in guarding Paul George, he showcases elite anticipation by poking the ball free from behind. He's at his best when he's hounding offensive players and using those active hands. Like I said, it is a risky way to play defense, but this is just his style, and I would much rather him be too aggressive than not aggressive at all. Here on this possession, he uses a steal technique that Avery Bradley is most famous for, and that's going for a steal with your inside hand rather than reaching in with your outside hand like everyone usually does. Doing this gives you much easier access to the ball, and since it's so unorthodox, it can catch the offensive player by surprise. He also uses another technique known as the bump steal. He first anticipates which direction Barnes is going to go, then he jumps to cut him off. But once he creates the contact with him, he pokes at the ball. This move is so effective because once you and an offensive player make contact, the ball basically floats for a split second, leaving a small window open for a steal. It was easy for him to know which way Barnes was going because not only was he positioned towards the middle, but Edwards knows he has help on his left side and the middle is the only spot open. Something good defenders all do is think like an offensive player. He used the same move here on Bradley Beal to poke the ball free. The bump steal technique isn't for everybody. It takes an insane level of timing, positioning, and anticipation to be able to pull this move off on a consistent basis. That's why I think it's very impressive. This is one of his many go-to steal strategies. Jrue Holiday is the best in the NBA at doing this, but Edwards isn't too far behind, because with his strength and build, it's much easier for him to cut defenders off using his body. With Edwards being such a dangerous transition scorer, getting on-ball steals are one of the best ways to quickly turn defense to offense. And honestly, when you think of the best pickpocketers in the NBA, you usually think of Chris Paul, Alex Caruso, and Gary Payton II. But as Ant gets more comfortable and consistent with his hounding ball pressure, I think he'll be in that same conversation sooner or later. And this is coming from someone who wasn't the biggest fan of his defense. But after closely watching and studying his defense, it's clear he has really good defensive instincts, something that wasn't too noticeable coming out of college. But of course, steals aren't everything. His on-ball defense is pretty good when he's locked in. Whenever the game is on the line, he has a tendency to really sit down in the chair and show his quick feet and lateral quickness. He moves very well out of his defensive stance, but he's also very explosive and fast enough to flip his hips and turn and run. And another underrated quality of his is his ability to stop on a dime, which just shows how good of an athlete he is. His strong build and frame transfers over to his ability to hold his own against bigger players. Weighing in at 225 pounds, he's actually the same weight as a lot of forwards and centers. No one is asking him to guard bigs for an entire game, but he definitely can hold his own against them on the switch. And with his mindset, he isn't just going to let anyone try to overpower him without putting up a fight. So moving forward, I'm expecting him to be one of the more versatile defensive players at his position. Another aspect of his defense that stands out is his help side shot blocking ability. His block per game numbers have went up every season, averaging 0.7 last year, which is good for a guard. Dwayne Wade, who is known as one of the best shot blocking guards of all time, averages around 0.8 for his career. Ant is great at using his elite vertical to send away shots whenever he is help side. I really love when he's more engaged in contesting shots around the rim. He's such a gifted athlete that I can see him one day averaging over a block per game. And that's mainly because he can get them in many different ways, whether that's on the ball, off the ball, or getting a chase down block in transition. Ant's pass lane defense is probably his most consistent quality on this end of the floor. He has a 6'9" wingspan that allows him to be very disruptive off the ball. And like we went over earlier, his anticipation is pretty good. Combine that with his dynamic athleticism, and you can see how he's able to quickly attack the ball midair and get out in transition. All in all, Ant's biggest concern is consistency. He literally has all the tools to be a great defender. I would like to see him become a better screen navigator, but other than that, he's a pretty good defender already. And with Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert on his team, he doesn't really need to exert a lot of energy on this end. But if he can play good defense for longer periods, it'll take the team a long way. But that'll be all for today's video. Let me know what other videos y'all like to see next.